Welcome to Life Stories. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel to follow more powerful true-to-life tales. Tonight's story begins where most love stories end, with a man coming home. After 14 days on the road, Jack Turner was ready to return to his wife, his home, and the quiet comfort of routine. But what he found wasn't warmth or welcome. It was a luxury car in his driveway that didn't belong to him, a cold dinner, and a wife who no longer looked at him the way she used to. What started as a simple homecoming would unravel into betrayal, deception, and a courtroom showdown that no one saw coming, except the man they all underestimated. Stay with us, because this isn't just a story about divorce. It's about dignity, about standing your ground when everything you love is used against you, and about proving, once and for all, that quiet men can fight loud wars. Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy today's story. Jack Turner downshifted his 18-wheeler as the Charlotte skyline glimmered in the late afternoon haze. 14 days on the road, nearly 3,000 miles from Texas, and every inch of him ached for a real shower and the silence of his own bed. The cab of his truck smelled like spilled coffee and fast food wrappers, the leftover scent of a working man's journey. He rubbed his eyes, sent a quick text. Home in 30. No reply from Sam. Not surprising these days. He steered through familiar streets, turned into the truck yard, logged his hours, and filed his paperwork with the precision he brought to everything in his life. Jack didn't cut corners. Not in business, not in love, and certainly not in loyalty. 20 minutes later, he parked his pickup behind a sleek black Mercedes in his driveway, a car that didn't belong to him. A small knot formed in his stomach. Margaret Ellis, his mother-in-law, again. Jack stepped inside. "Hey," he called. The house smelled of roasted rosemary chicken and something expensive he couldn't name. He found Samantha and Margaret seated at the dining table, wine glasses already half empty, dinner untouched and cold on the counter. "You're late," Sam said, not bothering to look up. "Traffic," Jack replied, setting down his duffel. "Hello, Margaret." Margaret gave him her signature tight smile. "Jack, how's the trucking?" The way she said trucking, you'd think he was cleaning portable toilets. "Profitable," Jack said evenly, rinsing his hands in the sink. His wedding ring, plain titanium, clinked against the metal. Sam had begged him to replace it with something flashier. He'd refused. That ring was part of their vows, and he believed vows mattered. "We were just talking about the Preston Gala next week," Margaret chimed. "Richard Preston's son made partner at a top firm. He's hosting. It's a $500 a plate dinner," Sam added coolly. "I bought us tickets." Jack blinked. "I'll be in Denver. McGregor shipment, remember?" "You can reschedule," Sam said flatly. "This is important. So is keeping my clients." He looked between them. "I don't ask you to cancel your gallery openings." "It's not the same," Margaret interjected. "Those events build connections, ones that could elevate you." "My life's elevated just fine, Margaret," Jack said, spotting Sam's phone light up. She flipped it quickly, but not fast enough. "Nate, your trainer texting at 8 p.m.?" he asked, voice casual. Sam's eyes narrowed. "He's adjusting my schedule." "Of course," Jack replied, wiping his hands dry. "I'm going to shower." As he turned to leave, he heard Margaret whisper, "How do you put up with those hands? So rough. He looks like he repairs tractors." Sam didn't flinch. "Sometimes I wonder why I married down, Mom." Jack stopped. His face betrayed nothing. He'd heard worse. But this time, something inside him twisted. In the shower, hot water beat against his skin, and he let his mind replay their 5 years together. They met at a charity fair. He was hauling canned goods for a local food bank. She was all heels, charm, and ambition. She'd said he was refreshing, real, someone who didn't try to impress. What she'd meant, he realized too late, was that he was moldable, a project. She thought she could refine him and parade him in front of her socialite circle. But Jack Turner wasn't built for polish. He was built for grit. When he stepped out, towel slung low, Sam was leaning against the doorframe. "Mom's gone." "Good. Do you have to antagonize her every time?" "I said hello and goodbye." "You could try harder. Like she tries with me? She just wants what's best." Jack stared at her, And that's not me, is it? Sam didn't answer. She just crossed her arms. You used to talk about law school, writing. You had options, she said quietly. I chose this, Jack replied. This life, this career, this house, our life. Then why do you always act like you hate it? Silence. Sam sat on the bed, perfectly poised. The gallery's launching a new exhibit. I'll be busy this week. I'm around 4 days, Jack said. If you need help, I'll manage. As she left the room, she called back. Mom invited us to dinner tomorrow. I said we'd go. She didn't wait for his answer. The next night, they drew to Buckhead. The Ellis estate rose like a white castle on a hill. Glass walls, marble columns, and zero warmth. Jack parked his dusty pickup between a Jaguar and a Tesla. You couldn't have taken my car? Sam muttered. Your car, your mother, your circus, Jack said, slamming the door shut. Inside, Margaret greeted him like a politician. All smile, no soul. Jack, so glad you could make it. Jack nodded politely. Thanks for having me. The dining room was more gallery than home. White marble, glass centerpieces, no photos of their wedding anywhere. But a new face sat at the table. Gregory Stone will be joining us, Margaret announced. He's helped with some of our foundation's work. Jack stiffened. Gregory was more than a family lawyer. He was Margaret's fixer. The dinner conversation was like walking a tightrope blindfolded, carefully worded jabs, backhanded compliments, and lots of references to people Jack had never met and never wanted to. Sam tells me you're considering a new path, Gregory said over dessert. Is that what she told you? Jack asked, raising an eyebrow. I just said you were exploring, Sam said quickly. I'm not, Jack replied. I'm good where I am. Gregory chuckled. Still clinging to the open road, huh? I manage a fleet. I negotiate contracts with Fortune 500 clients. But sure, let's call it clinging. An awkward silence fell. Later, as Jack walked down the hallway, he passed Margaret's study. Voices murmured behind the closed door. It's all arranged, Margaret was saying. The account is set up. He'll never see it coming. Mom, Sam's voice, hesitant. Don't get cold feet now. He's a dead weight. You deserve more. Jack stepped back into the shadows, and in that moment, the man they underestimated, the man they mocked for calloused hands and truck stops, began to build a quiet war. He would not be caught unprepared. He'd fought too hard, built too much, and he knew now. They hadn't just married him. They had targeted him. What would you do if you discovered your spouse was planning to betray you behind your back? Do you believe people can truly hide who they are for years? Or do we just ignore the signs? Stay tuned for part 2, where Jack begins his quiet preparations and sets the stage for a courtroom reckoning they never saw coming. The bar was dimly lit, tucked into a quiet corner of Charlotte, where no one wore tailored suits or ordered wine by the glass. Rusty's Tavern wasn't fancy, but the beer was cold, and the bartender knew your name. That night, Jack Turner needed both. He slid into the booth across from Tommy Brooks, his oldest friend, a man who'd known him back when Jack still wore braces and believed in forever. You look like hell, Tommy said, pushing a beer across the table. Jack took a long sip. Feels about right. What's up? Jack hesitated, watching the bubbles rise in his glass. They're planning something. Sam, her mom, the lawyer, Gregory Stone. Tommy's brow furrowed. Planning what? Divorce. Setup, whatever makes them walk away with my house, my company, and a sob story about how I ruined her potential. Tommy leaned back, the easy grin he always wore fading. You sure? I heard them, Jack said. Margaret called our marriage an experiment. Rest said I was holding her back. There's an account somewhere, a plan, and she's got that smug bastard Stone helping her. Tommy was silent for a beat. Then, what are you going to do? Jack cracked his knuckles. Prepare. Quietly. Over the next few weeks, Jack played his role to perfection. He smiled. He cooked dinner. He complimented Sam's gallery events. He kissed her cheek before leaving for local deliveries. And all the while, he watched, listened, took notes. In the quiet of his office, the one Sam had tried to turn into a guest room, he kept a leather notebook. Inside, he wrote down everything. Late-night calls that ended the moment he entered the room, bank charges that didn't match Sam's explanations, sudden shifts in her mood when Margaret visited. He wasn't paranoid. He was precise. He called Tommy again one evening. Remember your cousin, the attorney? Daniel? Why? Think he'd meet with me, discreetly. You planning to fight back? Jack stared at his notes. I'm planning not to be blindsided. It didn't take long. 3 weeks later, a manila envelope appeared on his kitchen counter. No words, no apology, just paperwork. Samantha was filing for divorce. Grounds: emotional abandonment and irreconcilable differences. She moved out the next morning. Jack didn't stop her. He let her walk, let her believe she'd won the first move. But what Sam didn't know, what Margaret didn't even think to imagine, was that Jack had been documenting everything. The lies, the money, the affair. And he had one more ace. 3 years ago, when Sam worried about protecting her inheritance, she'd insisted on a post-nuptial agreement. Jack had agreed on one condition: if either party committed infidelity or financial misconduct, they forfeited any claims to shared property. She'd signed it. Her lawyer had signed it. Notarized, recorded, airtight. The day of the first hearing, Jack stood outside Mecklenburg County Courthouse, tie slightly crooked, boots shined, and leather notebook in his hand. You sure you want to go through with this? Daniel Cruz, his attorney, asked. I didn't start this, Jack said, but I'll finish it. Inside, Samantha sat beside Gregory Stone in a charcoal gray suit, looking every inch the poised, wronged wife. Margaret sat behind them, composed and calculating, her designer handbag perched on her lap like a gavel of her own. They didn't even look his way. But Jack wasn't here to make them see him. He was here to make them remember him. As court opened, Samantha took the stand first. Her voice was soft, her words polished. She spoke of loneliness, missed birthdays, a husband more devoted to asphalt than affection. He left me behind, she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. He refused to grow with me. Jack sat still, his expression unreadable. Then it was his turn. Daniel called him to the stand. Jack kept it simple, clear, honest. I built my company from the ground up, he said. I paid for her master's degree, her studio, her lifestyle. I gave her $5,000 a month in discretionary funds. She had access to every account, every card. He paused. And still, I wasn't enough. Gregory tried to shake him, asked why he stayed on the road, implied he might be hiding something. Jack just smiled. You think I'd spend 20 years building a company just to throw it away on some roadside fling? Then came the documents, phone records, credit card statements, surveillance photos. Nate the trainer, Savannah weekend trips, late-night charges to hotel rooms while Jack was hauling time-sensitive medical supplies across state lines. Samantha's face paled. Margaret's knuckles went white. And then, the post-nup. Daniel dropped it on the table like a grenade. She signed it, he said, and she broke it. The courtroom murmured. Judge Hamilton raised a brow. Well then, let's take a recess. Outside, Jack didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. Samantha approached him near the marble steps. This doesn't have to get ugly, she said. It already is, Jack replied. You're really going to humiliate me? No, he said softly. You did that to yourself. If you were in Jack's shoes, would you choose revenge or closure? Have you ever underestimated someone and realized too late they were 10 steps ahead? Join us in the next episode of Story Tales, where Jack's quiet strength forces everyone to face the consequences, and the courtroom reveals more than anyone bargained for. The final morning in court dawned gray and cold, as if the sky itself braced for what was to come. Jack Turner stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of his blue button-down shirt. No designer labels, no gold cufflinks, just the man he'd always been, sharp, steady, and unshakable. In the mirror, he saw no trace of the man Samantha Ellis had tried to reshape. That version was long gone. What remained was something stronger. Downstairs, Daniel Cruz waited in the truck, tapping a folder against the dash. Jack stepped outside and climbed in. You ready? Daniel asked. Jack gave a single nod. Let's finish this. Inside the courthouse, the room was buzzing. Reporters lingered just outside the doors. Rumors had begun to swirl. A high society divorce, financial misconduct, and whispers of federal investigations. The perfect storm. Margaret Ellis sat with her legs crossed tightly, wearing a silk suit and forced calm. Her expression betrayed nothing, but her fingers drummed anxiously against her knee. Samantha sat beside her, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. Gregory Stone looked like a man who knew he was about to lose his favorite clients. Jack entered without fanfare, walking past them without a glance. He took his seat beside Daniel, leather notebook on the table like a loaded weapon. Judge Hamilton arrived, calling the court to order. "Counsel, you may proceed." Daniel stood. "Your Honor, today we call our final witness, Miss Margaret Ellis." A ripple passed through the courtroom. Margaret rose slowly, her heels clicking like warnings on the polished floor. After she was sworn in, Daniel approached the stand. "Miss Ellis, you testified earlier about your concern for your daughter's marriage. You implied Mr. Turner was controlling, perhaps even limiting Samantha's potential. Is that correct?" Margaret nodded. "I stand by my statement." "Did you also assist Samantha in establishing a separate account, one Mr. Turner was not aware of?" Margaret paused. "I may have offered some advice." "Did you also create a company called Eastwell Logistics through which over $400,000 was funneled from the Holloway Foundation, listing Jack Turner's social security number as a partner without his knowledge?" Gasps echoed. Gregory jumped to his feet. "Objection!" "Withdrawn," Daniel said calmly. "We've already submitted documentation to the IRS and the district attorney." Judge Hamilton's eyes narrowed. "Let's keep this focused." "Of course, Your Honor," Daniel said. He turned back to Margaret. "Miss Ellis, given your documented interference in Mr. Turner's financial records, do you believe your testimony regarding his character should be considered impartial?" Margaret's facade cracked. "I did what I had to do to protect my daughter." Daniel's voice remained steady. "Even if it meant breaking the law." Margaret didn't answer. That was enough. No one needed a confession. The evidence spoke louder than any words. When closing arguments began, Gregory tried to redirect, blaming stress, cultural differences, even Jack's profession. It didn't matter. The courtroom had already seen the truth. Daniel stood with the quiet poise of a man who knew he'd already won. "Your Honor, this case is not about class, not about profession. It's about commitment, about integrity. Mr. Turner came into this marriage with open hands, and he leaves it not with revenge, but with dignity." Judge Hamilton called for a recess. Jack walked into the hallway. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt free. A few minutes later, Samantha followed him out. Her voice was quiet. "You really did it." Jack turned. "I didn't do anything. You did." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time seemed to realize what she'd lost. "You never raised your voice," she said. "Never fought back." "I did," Jack said. "You just never saw it. My silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy." Tears welled in her eyes, but Jack didn't reach out. "I hope you find what you're looking for," he said gently. "But whatever it is, it's not me." Back inside, Judge Hamilton rendered her decision. The postnuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. Given the evidence presented, including proof of infidelity and financial manipulation, the court rules in favor of Mr. Turner. All claims to shared marital property are hereby dismissed. No spousal support is awarded. Furthermore, the court recommends a formal investigation into the Holloway Foundation's financial activities. A gavel strike. A chapter closed. Samantha left the courthouse in silence. Margaret followed, shoulders stiff, press cameras flashing as federal agents quietly approached her outside. Jack didn't stay to watch. He stepped into the sunlight and inhaled deeply. It was over. 1 week later, Jack returned to his house. It was quieter now, stripped of Sam's presence, the perfume, the designer decor, the curated coldness, but it felt more like home than it had in years. He boxed up old photos, cleaned out the closet, donated the untouched wine glasses she'd bought for guests that never came. Then he called a realtor. 3 weeks later, he sold the house. With the proceeds, he bought a modest home near his logistics office. Nothing fancy, nothing curated, just his. But Jack didn't stop there. He called Tommy. "You remember those veterans you introduced me to?" "Yeah, I want to do something," Jack said. "Something real." Jack launched the Turner Initiative, a mentorship program for veterans transitioning into logistics. He offered training, truck leases, and a fresh start. His company grew, not just in numbers, but in meaning. And Jack grew too. He wasn't just rebuilding, he was redefining. 6 months later at the Nashville airport, Jack stood in line for his flight to a logistics summit. As he passed the rental counter, a familiar face caught his eye. Samantha. Hair pulled back, uniform shirt, smile rehearsed. She looked older, smaller, like the wind had been knocked out of her sails. Their eyes met. Jack, she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't expect. Neither did I. A pause. You look good, she said. Different. Jack considered her words. I feel different. Are you happy? He didn't answer right away. Then he smiled. I am. She nodded, eyes wet. I never really saw you, did I? No, Jack said gently, but I always saw you. And with that, he walked away. No bitterness, no regret, just freedom. Because the truth was, Jack hadn't just won the divorce. He'd won himself back. And this time, he wasn't giving that up for anyone. How did this story make you feel? Do you think Jack made the right choice by staying true to himself? If you felt something powerful in Jack's journey, comment 100 below and tell us what country you're watching from. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a story of quiet strength and powerful redemption. We'll see you in the next story, right here on Story Tales.